Hey there, welcome back to my kitchen. In today's video, we are going to be making some side recipes. These can easily go along with any type of protein you have for dinner, or if you just want to make these for a potluck, or even just for lunch, you can do that as well. So let's go ahead and get started, and I will show you how to make all 4 of these side recipes. First up today, we're going to make these loaded potato slices. To begin, you will need to go ahead and preheat your oven to 400 degrees. Now moving over here to my skillet, I am going to go ahead and cook up some bacon. For this recipe, you only need about 3 to 4 slices. However, I'm going to go ahead and cook a lot more than that because I'm going to be using some bacon for another recipe. Once the bacon was cooked, I did go ahead and just cut up those 3 to 4 slices, and we're just going to set them aside for right now. You will also be needing 1 large baked potato. This recipe is great if you only have 1 potato or a couple little potatoes that you kind of want to stretch to feed the entire family. So you'll be taking this potato, you'll cut the ends off of it, and then you're going to cut this in slices that are about 1/4 of an inch thick. You want to make sure you're not cutting them too thin, that way they're not flimsy, but you also want to make sure they're not too thick because you want them to still get a little bit crispy. Once I have that all cut up, I'm going to go ahead and get out a baking sheet and line it with some parchment paper. Now you can take the potato and add it onto your baking sheet and make sure they're all laying flat on your pan. Next, you're going to take some oil, I'm using some avocado oil, and spray down the tops of these potato slices. Then you'll just season these potato slices with some salt and pepper. I stuck these in my oven for right around 15 minutes, and this is what they looked like after the 15 minutes. At this point, they should be nice and soft. You should be able to poke them easily with a fork. Then you will just flip them all over onto the opposite side. Go ahead and spray them down again with some more oil and add more salt and pepper onto this side of the potato slices. Back in the oven they go, this time only for about 10 minutes, and then once they come out of the oven, you're going to top them with cheese. You can use any type of cheese that you like. I'm using some shaved mild cheddar, and you just want to make sure you add this on top pretty heavily. I put these back in the oven for just about 2 to 3 minutes, just long enough to melt that cheese. Once the cheese is melted, now you can go ahead and take the bacon that we chopped up earlier and add that over the top. And then you can also take some green onions, or you can use some chives like I have here, and then add that over the top as well. Here's what my plate looked like in the end. As you can see, I did go ahead and just make some chicken to go along with these, but these little potato slices are so good. They honestly remind me a lot of potato skins, just without so much of the skin. And they get nice and crispy around the edges, but you still have all those delicious toppings on top. And like I said, this is a really great way to stretch some potatoes to feed a lot of people. Next up, I tried a new recipe called Orzo pasta salad. To get started, we're going to go ahead and get the orzo going. So in this pot, I'm just adding 2 cups of low sodium chicken broth, a 1/4 cup of lemon juice, 1 teaspoon of salt, and then we're going to let this come to a boil. Once it's boiling, you can add in 8 ounces of dry orzo. Now you will just let this go and simmer until all the liquid has been absorbed and your orzo is nice and soft. Next, we're going to go ahead and prepare the dressing. So into my little cup here, I have already juiced half of a lemon. I'm also going to be adding in a 1/4 cup of olive oil, 1½ tablespoons of red wine vinegar, about 1 clove of minced garlic. I may have added just a little bit more, 1 teaspoon of oregano, 1 teaspoon of sugar, half a teaspoon of salt, and about a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. Get that all mixed together and set it aside for right now. Now we're going to go ahead and start chopping. So I do have half of an English cucumber here. Her recipe does call for 1 entire English cucumber, but mine was very big, so I went ahead and just cut it in half, and I cubed up half of my English cucumber. Then you're going to take 1 entire pint of cherry tomatoes and cut those all in half. And then I'm taking half of a small red onion and chopping that up pretty fine. Now that my orzo has cooled down, I went ahead and added it into a nice big bowl. I'm going to pour in the cucumber, tomato, and red onion, along with the dressing that we made, with 1 drained and rinsed 15-ounce can of chickpeas. You will also be needing about a 1/2 cup of feta cheese. So I actually did not realize that my husband had ate as much of the feta cheese as he did, so I did not have very much in here. I went ahead and finished off my container, and then I decided to add some Parmesan cheese in here, which, by the way, the Parmesan was great. I didn't mind it at all. Next, the recipe does call for a 1/4 cup of chopped fresh basil. My store did not have any fresh basil, so I went ahead and just used about a teaspoon of dried basil and a big pinch of parsley. I went ahead and gave that a good mix together, and then I did give it a taste since I had never made this one before. I wanted mine to have a little bit more sweetness to it, so I added in just a little bit more sugar. This recipe also does call for some olives, but neither me or my husband like olives, so I went ahead and just left those out. But after that, I went ahead and gave it one more good mix and stuck it in the refrigerator for about an hour to chill. Here's what my plate looked like on this night. There is the pasta salad there. Of course, if you make it the correct way, with the right amount of feta cheese, it'll have a lot more feta cheese in it. But like I said, even adding that Parmesan, this turned out so good. I am in love with this pasta salad. I will definitely make it again in the future, but to go along with this, again, I just made some simple chicken. Now we're going to make these roasted potatoes and broccoli. For this one, you will need to preheat your oven to 400 degrees. And now over to my cutting board. I have a large bowl here. I also have 1 bag of baby yellow potatoes. I did go ahead and wash those really well. And now for these potatoes, I'm going to cut them all in half, and if they're a little larger, then I'll cut them in 3 pieces, but you just want to make sure they're all about the same size. Once they're in the bowl, you can go ahead and add about 2 tablespoons of avocado oil. Now to add the seasonings, I'm adding about a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, a 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder, a 1/4 teaspoon of onion powder, and a 1/4 teaspoon of red pepper flakes. Once all of that is in the bowl, I'm going to go ahead and get that all mixed up really well, trying to spread the seasonings around all over the potatoes. Now I'm just going to get out a baking sheet here and add some oil onto the pan. Add the potatoes on there and spread them out as evenly as you can. I stuck these potatoes in the oven for 15 minutes to start. While the potatoes are in the oven, I'm going to go ahead and prepare my broccoli. So I went ahead and soaked and washed this little head of broccoli here, and now I'm just going to cut off all the florets and add them into a bowl. I'm using the same bowl I used for the potatoes. We're going to be using the same seasonings, so that doesn't really matter too much. I just try to make sure none of the florets are too big. You want them to all be kind of bite-sized pieces. Just like before with the potatoes, we're going to go ahead and add about a tablespoon of avocado oil, a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, a 1/4 teaspoon of garlic and onion powder, about an 1/8 teaspoon of pepper, a little bit of red pepper flakes, and then get those all mixed together. Here are the potatoes coming out of the oven after 15 minutes. Now you can go ahead and take that broccoli and add it onto the pan as well. Give this a mix together, move the potatoes around, and spread everything out nice and even. Now this is going to go back in the oven for another 15 minutes until the broccoli is fork tender. Here's what it should be looking like after that extra 15 minutes. At this point, I'm going to kind of move them all to the center of the pan, and then we're going to add some cheese. I went ahead and grated up some fresh Parmesan cheese. You can add as much cheese on here as you want. I would say I added about a 1/4 cup to a 1/2 cup of this Parmesan. Last but not least, I am drizzling them with just a little bit of lemon juice. If you don't like lemon juice, then skip this step. But this is what it'll look like when it is all done. On my plate here, I went ahead and just made some pork chops to go along with this meal. This side dish is honestly very easy. The ingredients are nice and minimal, all nice and simple. And my husband will eat this as well. He just picks out the broccoli, which is fine with me. And now we're going to make this delicious tortellini ranch pasta salad. For this one, I am going to cook up about 5 whole slices of bacon. This is the same clip from earlier when I cooked a little bit extra bacon for the other recipe. Now I'm going to go ahead and start boiling up 12 ounces of cheese tortellini. You'll know the tortellini is done when it's all coming to the top like this. Once it's done, you can just set it aside and let it cool down for right now. Next, you're going to be needing a block of sharp cheddar cheese. For this recipe though, you only need to use half of this. Now for this cheese, you are just going to cut this up into really tiny little bite-sized cubes. You will also want to take your bacon and cut that up into nice small pieces as well. Now moving over here to my nice big bowl, I'm going to go ahead and add in a 1/2 cup of sour cream with about a 1/4, maybe a little bit more than a 1/4 cup of mayonnaise, 2 tablespoons of ranch seasoning, and then about 2 tablespoons of milk, or 1/2 and 1/2 will work just fine. I'm going to just mix this up really well until it becomes one nice smooth sauce. At this point, you can go ahead and add in your tortellini. I added in about 3/4 of the bacon and all of the cheese. And now at this point, I'm just going to go ahead and get this combined really well, making sure that everything is nicely covered by the sauce. Now this is going to go into your refrigerator for about an hour or so. You want to let it get nice and cool. And then here's what my bowl looked like in the end. I did save a little bit of bacon in the end just to add over the top of the pasta. But this is what it should look like after it sits in the refrigerator for a little bit. The sauce will kind of thicken up a bit and everything should be nicely covered. Thank you guys so very much for watching today's video. I do hope that you enjoyed and found something that looks good to you. Don't forget to leave me a flower down in the comments below if you did make it all the way to the end of today's video. And I will see you back here on Sunday for a new one. Bye!